All right, this video covers the first part of the first section of chapter 4, and we're just going to talk about some general terms involving triangles and then some ways to classify triangles. So first off, let's talk about the different parts of a triangle. So here we've got triangle BCD, 3 points connected by segments, and that's just what a triangle is. A triangle is formed by 3 points connected by segments. Those points are called the vertices. Singular is just a vertex. So B is a vertex, C is a vertex, D is a vertex, B, C, and D are all vertices. And then the segments are called the sides. So we got 3 sides as well. We call this triangle BCD. We write this down by drawing a triangle and then writing the letters out in any order. And we have 3 vertices and 3 sides. Again, B, C, and D, and then BC, BD, and CD are all sides. They're segments, so we write them with the line without arrows above them. All right. Looking at this triangle, sometimes we want to talk about what is across from a particular side or angle, or what is included between sides and angles. So we're going to talk about a few questions involving that right now. Which angle is opposite BC? Well, that just means which angle is across from side BC. So across from side BC would be angle D. Which side is opposite angle B? Angle B is up here. Which side is across from angle B? Well, that would just be side CD. Similarly, we can have included angles and sides. Which angle is included between BC and BD? BC being this side here, BD being this side here. What angle is between those two sides? Well, just angle B. And we can see that B is included on both of these sides, right? BC and BD, angle B. Similarly, which side is included between angle B and angle C? Well, what side connects those two angles? Side BC. All right, the other thing we need to talk about are some ways to classify triangles. So we have some words to classify triangles by angles and by sides. So these words are going to classify triangles by their angles. The first thing we're going to talk about is an acute triangle. We already know an acute angle is an angle that is less than 90 degrees, but an acute triangle is a triangle where all of the angles are acute. If all the angles are acute, we call it an acute triangle. You're always going to have some acute angles in a triangle. But sometimes all of them will be acute. And if that's the case, we call it an acute triangle. It's possible you'll have a triangle with a right angle, which is called a right triangle. Now, if you have a right triangle, the other two angles will be acute. One of those angles is 90 degrees. The other two have to add up to 90, so those will be acute. Same thing with an obtuse triangle. An obtuse triangle has one obtuse angle. The other two will be acute. So all 3 are acute in an acute triangle, and in a right triangle and obtuse triangle, we still have 2 acute angles, but one of them will be right and one of them will be obtuse. There's one more term that we use to classify triangles by their angles, and that is the word equiangular. An equiangular triangle is a special type of triangle where all 3 angles are congruent, which means they all have to be 60 degrees. All these angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees, which is something we're going to talk about in a second. So if a triangle is equiangular, all the angles have to be 60 degrees. That means an equiangular triangle is also always an acute triangle. All right, we also have some words to classify triangles by their sides. One word is scalene. All scalene means is that all 3 sides are different. It's a triangle where none of the sides are equal to each other. The next word is isosceles. An isosceles triangle is a triangle with 2 congruent sides. And then lastly, we have an equilateral triangle, which is a triangle where all 3 sides are congruent. So no congruent sides, all sides are different. Isosceles, 2 of them are congruent. Equilateral, all 3 are congruent. All right, so this triangle, we're going to classify it by angles and by sides. So the first thing I do when I look at this triangle is I think that's an obtuse angle. We have an obtuse angle, it's an obtuse triangle. And then all the sides are different, right? This is our shortest side, this is our longer side, this is our longest side. They're all different lengths. So we would call this triangle obtuse and scalene. Another thing to point out is in a scalene triangle, all the angles will be different as well. All the sides will be different, but all the angles will be different as well. So this fact that these angles are all different sizes tell us it's a scalene triangle as well. Next, we have a triangle with a right angle. So this is going to be a right triangle. And then we also have these two tick marks showing these two sides are equal to each other. So we have a right triangle, and we also have an isosceles triangle, a triangle with two equal sides. This triangle is right and isosceles. Right, talking about the angles, isosceles talking about the equal sides. And again, just like we noticed with the other example, here, along with the two equal sides, we have two equal angles. And then our last one we're going to look at for this video is a triangle with all 60-degree angles and all equal sides. Hopefully you remember those words are equiangular and equilateral. And also, since the angles are all below 90, this would be an acute triangle. So here we can use three words to classify the triangle: acute, equiangular, and equilateral.